Ladies and gentlemen, regarding the introduction of smart mobility, I'd like to learn about the future role of car manufacturers. We know their role from the past by crafting cars, retailing them, organizing the after-sales. But how will they manage the transition from a car-centric approach to a car-user approach? Well, I'm very proud to announce you that we have a CEO of an OEM among us. We have Luca De Meo, Chief Executive Officer of SEAT. He is graduated in business administration and has more than 20 years experience in the automotive industry. Renault, Toyota Motor Europe, Fiat Group. He entered the Volkswagen Group in 2009 as head of marketing. And last year, he has been appointed as chairman of the executive committee of SEAT. It's a true pleasure to have him with us this morning. Mr. Luca De Meo, may I invite you to come on stage with me? Welcome again. Please make sure you will be seated. And he will, of course, be interviewed by, yes, Steven Schoefs, chief editor of Fleet Europe.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Welcome in Barcelona.
Dear Mr. De Meo, it's really a pleasure and an honor to meet with you here in your city, the city of SEAT. And we are also grateful that you are willing to share your vision and some of your ideas in terms of the evolution of the car industry, the automotive and mobility. Okay? As you are not, let's say, the usual interviewer for me, we have selected also some unusual questions for you.
Very good.
Okay? But let's start with a big one, a big question. How do you see the future of the car in general, and more in particular, because that's why we are here, the future of the company car?
Look, I think you showed it very well in the video. I think the next 5 to 10 years will be probably some of the most disruptive years in the industry since a lot of times. I personally see it as an opportunity. I'm a car guy. So I have a kind of a great faith in the ability of this industry to, go through challenges, crises, etc., and reinvent itself. And I think it's very exciting to look at, what the technology will bring, and I am sure that we will, also adapt to it. Maybe we can be more specific on that later. But in general, what I want to send as a message, I think that the industry is preparing to that. Especially in our group, I think there is I feel a certain kind of acceleration on many topics. And yeah, it will be a good time.
What kind of topics?
I mean, you mentioned, there are basically 4 things that you also mentioned in the video. One is the whole story of electrification. The second one is the autonomous driving car. The third one is the connected car. And the fourth, which has nothing to do maybe only with the technology and the product, is the changing consumer behavior patterns, sharing economy, etc. From car sharing to all the new services of mobility that also in the fleet business will have an impact. If you want, I can elaborate a little bit on that, where I see the things going, or you
indeed, we of course wanted to talk to you also about, for example, the disruptors that we see. So you have the Amazons, you have the Googles, you have the Ubers, you have many startups coming into the automotive and mobility chain. Some have quite deep pockets, others are highly motivated. How big is the danger or not that they will take over, let's say, a piece of the pie of the car manufacturers and also the customer-facing side of the business?
Yeah, also the industry has big pockets. For your reference, the investment that we do in R&D on the Volkswagen Group is bigger than the one that Apple does, for example. It's not that we're not investing in the business on the technology. I think it's an additional challenge. I think this company are coming from another angle on the issue. We are coming from the hardware side, they're coming from the software side. And we will see, there will be form of co-petition into the thing, collaboration, competition. But I think that there will be space for everybody. I think in the history, we have been almost, kind of fostering a lot of business around the automotive. I mean, you have here leasing companies, brokers of every kind, people doing tires, people selling gasoline, etc. It's another actor in the game. But the good thing is that the automotive manufacturers are creating really a lot of opportunity of business. I mean, I have a company here, it's the biggest company in Catalonia. We have 14,500 people only here. But for each one of the, let's say, of the jobs that we create, there are 7 outside. And I think it's good, okay? I'm talking about people that, in a way, are involved with SEAT without, considering all suppliers, et cetera, or services around. So I think it's good that, the automotive industry is there and is creating jobs. And it's a question of how you divide the cake that you generate. And I think the cake will be good. There are a lot of forecasts. You can never actually forecast the future. I mean, there is a quote that I like to make, many years ago. Gottfried Daimler said that there would not be more than 1 million potential for cars because of lack of drivers. And then the people learned how to drive cars. So I think we never have to be, let's say, scared about the future, just to embrace it. And I think, so.
Talking about the number of cars and the drivers, yes, we see that self-driving cars are, let's say, around the corner in terms of years. Automated driving is also predicted to have an impact. Yes. Which consequences do you see ahead for your business and for, let's say, society in general when it comes to self-driving technology?
Look, I think I'm one of the few person here in the room that was actually had the experience of driving almost at 200 kilometers an hour on a racetrack with an Audi A7. When I was at Audi, on the passenger seat. So 2 things is obviously I lost some weight and years into the experience. And the second is the conclusion is that the technology is there. Okay. There are a lot of things that need to be, from a technical point of view, it seems to be, pretty close to, and you have a lot of features already on many of the series production cars that would be part of the package, right? I think that, there are a lot of questions that have to be solved. For example, the whole issue about legislation or ethical question about do we leave a robot to make some decision that normally would be, let's say, taken by a human being? Right now, if you make a mistake, if you have a bad mistake because whatever, you're drunk and you're driving or et cetera, there are consequences for this. What will happen when a robot will make a wrong decision? Are they going to, let's say, bring the robot on, in front of justice, or is the manufacturer? There are a lot of things that surround the whole discussion on autonomous driving. Second thing is, when a lot of people are pushing for autonomous driving, because autonomous driving means also a lot of hardware. You need sensors, radars, laser scans of every kind. You need computing capacity on the product. So that means a lot of suppliers are pushing because that's another potential value that they create that they can sell. Okay. And obviously there are some companies like Google, Apple, the content providers that I think they believe in this technology because it will free driving time and, for example, generate media time, entertainment time. Yeah. So we, as car manufacturers, see the whole story of the autonomous driving from another angle, and basically is another way of delivering superior comfort to the driving, to the experience, or safety, because I don't know if you know, but there are 1.2 million people dying in a car accident in the world. And I think the objective of every car manufacturer should be to bring that to zero. So we are coming from different angles. They are coming from, they see a certain, let's say, business case. We see another business case. And I think it's good because that means there are more people concentrating on the topic, and the thing will come when there will be also some more clarity. I mean, as a whole package, so that means 100% self-driving cars. When also some questions like legislation, regulation will be kind of solved. There's been, let's say, a recent sentence in US which is opening up, let's say, the possibility of this. But this is not clear in every country, and there are a lot of discussion. But I'm, you know, technically, if not even, as an attitude, always an innovator. So I always keep, you know, a door open to new things, and I know that technically we can do.
Yes. So, and for you, even better tomorrow than after tomorrow. If I listen to you.
I mean, what will happen? Let's say two things. For sure, there will be an acceleration in putting some of the features in the car. I mean, you have seen already small car, city cars with emergency brake functions or lane assist or this kind of things, right? So this thing will accelerate. And until when you start to put all the pieces together, then we'll be able to have a car that can do much more, and you can, you know, leave the hands from the the steering wheel for seconds or minutes. It will go like this, you know. Active cruise control function, this kind of thing. They're already there. They will, you know, get down, and I mean, a function like emergency brake, I think it's very useful, right? So 70% of the accidents happen in city environment. Yeah. So that may save lives. So I think it's worth the effort of, you know, trying to do it. So yeah. So I think it will come. I also believe personally that full autonomous driving functions or close to them will emerge first, not in normal cars, but maybe on robotaxis. That means a small fleet of cars that will do, you know, always the same kind of, you know, tour into the thing, in some kind of controlled environment. So you know, you move from whatever here, from Plaza de España to Plaza de Catalunya all the time. People jump in and out, etc. This will be one potential first usage of the technology. And the other thing is, and I'm sure there are probably also people from you know, the truck business or that are involved with this. In the truck business, there is a clear business case for it, because let's say platooning on big trucks has a couple of advantages. One is safety, because drivers are, you know, driving maybe 8 hours a day. They have the problem of reducing accidents and stop down of the trucks. And the second thing is, if big trucks, they kind of drive all together, there is a potential, let's say, saving in terms of fuel of 10 to 50%. In that business is huge. So there's a clear business case. So in fact, our colleagues in the group of Scania or MAN, they are pretty much in that technology, because it's going to come. So those two, you have to observe those two sectors to see how fast the thing will go. Okay.
Another important chapter that we saw also in the video, and that you also underlined already in the beginning of the interview, is of course alternative powertrains.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking a little bit about that, we can presume that in the upcoming years, diesel will lose in popularity in Europe?
Look, I don't know, because from a customer point of view, at least in Europe, diesel seems to be a very appreciated technology. So, I mean, I think that through the years, a lot of, you know, handicaps that technology had were kind of wiped out by new technology, you know, turbocharging, electronics, etc., etc. So the people like it very much.
But not the governments.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is the issue of how you are able to bring the diesel into the future, right? And we know that relatively to other technologies, to bring diesel to, I don't know, Euro 6, Euro 7, Euro 8, it will be more and more complicated, and especially more expensive, okay? So that's the challenge. It's not that the people don't like diesel, or the government don't like diesel, maybe, but the issue is that it will be, for manufacturer, always relatively more expensive to make another step into reducing 5 to 10 to 20 grams, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes alternative technology, including gasoline, in a way more attractive. but also electric or whatever, CNGs, etc. Okay, so I think that what we realized, there are two big milestones in terms of CO2 limits. It will be 2020 is the first one, and the very hard one will be 2025. So we calculate that with current, let's say, with what we know on gasoline and diesel technology right now, to meet the target in 2025, you probably need a mix, a double-digit mix of electric cars. Whether it's 15, 20, 25, but it's a big part, which is actually, I think, also the issue for some companies in the car park, if they set for themselves a certain CO2 target. So the group has decided, and you have seen in the video the ID of Volkswagen, it's a completely new platform designed for this. So we bet on the fact that the electric will grow. We think that, it's not, probably diesel will, we see also in the numbers in the fleet business going slightly, down.
Exactly.
So there are already some signs. But we are preparing for the future, and I think that electric will play a part in Europe and also in some regions like China and maybe in US. But I just want to, let's say, maybe make a comment. At the end of the day, I always have that kind of reflex, which is to look at, from the customer point of view, what a technology can bring and what are the conditions for technology to be successful. And I think that there are 2 or 3 conditions that will make electric really an alternative for consumer, whatever the rules of governments or policies of the companies will make. And this is range. That means you need to have, we think, a 400-500 kilometers range real for the car. Second is the fact that, let's say, the cost of, let's say, an electric car or whatever new technology needs to be below 10% in difference to the current technology. Okay, so I think these are the 2 conditions that will make electric attractive, because there is no reason, in general, this is true for all sectors, for a person to buy a new generation thing, if the experience, okay, is not better than with the product you have today. You don't buy a mobile phone of the next generation if it's worse, than what you have in your hand, right?
And when do you think that we will have overcome that?
I think we'll start to see, a lot of push from the manufacturer. There is a lot of progress in the battery technology, also in the cost. So I think in the next 2-3 years will be a first wave. But I believe that Horizon 2025 will be, potentially the electric cars will be pretty established into the market with, mix double-digit mix.
Okay.
This is my forecast. But I'm not one of the guys working on any laboratory on batteries or et cetera. So
but you are the CEO, so you have to overlook everything.
Yeah, but it's very difficult to predict the future. It's I'm there to run the business and also hopefully to have an understanding what are the better options. So we keep it open, we invest on it, and we hope that the thing will work, because I think it's good. And I personally drive an electric car. I have one prototype of a car that I drive every day or when I can, and I think it's a good experience. It's very comfortable. It accelerates very fast. It's pretty cool. So I think there is potential for that technology.
Good. You mentioned already also in one of your answers, you made the link to the smartphone.
Yeah.
Yes. There are some economists, experts, that are saying that, in fact, it's quite strange that the life cycle of a car is still so long, that we use it still for 7, 8, 9, 10, I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
Yes. How long do you think it will take that the life cycle of a car, the use of the car, will become as short, let's say, as a tablet, a smartphone, etc.?
Yeah, these guys, they say this because they are not involved with the financing of, any car project. So they can say whatever they want, but in fact, technically, running an automotive company, it's a very capital-intensive business. Every time we invest on a product, we're talking about 100 millions, billions, okay? So it's very difficult to actually, and financially, to justify and to return on the investment when you put so much money on one thing, okay? Plants, platforms, engines, whatever they are, or battery plant or whatever. So what I think could be, let's say, the solution for this is to actually separate the life cycle of hardware versus software. So what we might be seeing in the automotive industry also to satisfy that kind of demand from faster life cycle is that the cars will be able to be upgradable, okay? The infotainment will be maybe upgradable, the software will be upgradable, but some of the basic functions, the hardware function, will have to stay, and I don't see, honestly, a car, let's say, a life cycle of 2 years. I think also for some of you will be pretty much of a disaster in terms of, residual value, et cetera, et cetera. I think the business doesn't work like this. It's easy to say, but to do it, it's another story.
Mhm. How do you see with the disruptors coming in, with powertrains evolving, with urbanization going on, with consumer behavior, you mentioned it also, changing from the owning concept to the using concept. How do you see your business model evolving as a car manufacturer? And let's say, how does all these aspects also impact your business right now, today?
Look, I think that the major, let's say, the major challenge for us from an organization point of view, culture point of view, is we will need to be able to master two worlds. One is our traditional hardware world, and potentially the world of the software world and the kind of ecosystem that we'll be able to create around the car because of the technology. And this is pretty much of an evolution because car manufacturers are, let's say, organized to converge to the start of production of a product, and then we leave a car to a dealer, to a broker, etc. And it's actually taking care of distributing the thing, handling the relation with the consumer. And this is a sequential, let's say, process where you first design a car, then develop it, and then you produce it, and then you maybe distribute it and you deliver it. And so it's sequential, and the customer is at the end of the chain, right? In a new world, when you are in an ecosystem where your product is integrated into some kind of digital world, there will be a lot of transaction going on at the same time, okay? So it requires a completely different approach also to us because, maybe today we have a contact with the consumer in the dealer network once a year when he goes to maintenance, okay? Tomorrow you might have 3 contacts with the consumer every day because the guy is sharing a car or etc. Or he's buying a service that is provided by its infotainment system, okay, by its connected car. So this is a pretty much of a change. At SEAT we started to invest in this direction. One of the things I decided to do was actually to start to put together people that normally would work sequentially. That means engineers, designers, sales and marketing people, business development people in the same space, working parallel together. This is, for us already a step. Other companies also are doing this, but it shows you, it's the first sign that something is going on in the industry also, because we are aware that one of the, let's say, potential additional or marginal, let's say, possibility of making more business is actually to create the condition around the product that an ecosystem can be created, okay, with some of the players like you, like content companies, etc. But we have to allow that connection between product and consumer, product and infrastructure, product and retail.
Okay. We are almost at the end of this discussion. One question on the place of Europe. Yes, Europe has always been seen in the automotive and also in terms of innovation a little bit as the center. It's a patchwork of countries, it's quite complex, there is quite some R&D and so on. Yeah. How do you see the place of Europe in the future when it comes to the automotive business and the mobility business? Will it still be, let's say, the center part, or will even also when it comes to research and development, will there perhaps be other areas in the world, China and the United States and South America, coming up and becoming more important and more dominant than Europe?
Look, I think that we should be, I'm not saying this because I'm in the industry, I think that we should all be proud of the European industry. It's a benchmark for, as far as I know, for anybody on the planet, okay? It's clear that the products that are coming from, our plants, our brands are considered around the world the best you can buy, okay? And I think it should continue to be like this. Obviously, if you ask to me, what can I answer to you? I think we're working to make sure that the European industry stays where it is. When I see two challenges, probably I think the first one is on the whole trend for electrification, I think that there are some, let's say, regions in the world where the push from authorities or from regulation is even more brutal. Think, for example, at China.
Yes.
Okay, you cannot get a nameplate in any of the big 22 cities if you don't buy an electric car. So it's a way to provoke that kind of change, which is more dramatic than the one in Europe. They put infrastructure in place, etc., etc. Okay, so that thing on this one we have to be careful that we don't get overwhelmed, overtaken. Okay, the second one is. I think, let's say, compared to other regions, and I think Europe in general, this is not true only for the automotive industry, the whole internet wave, we have been going behind, not only on the car business. So I think it's the risk is that we are not up to speed when it comes to, what I was saying before, put let's say, the king of hardware, which is the car, into a digital world. And that's why we have to work. We have to work all together, but that Europe doesn't lose the opportunity that the digital revolution is bringing to all economies in the world. But I'm a small part of it. I believe in this story. That's why, for example, at SEAT, we're putting in our technological roadmap the connected car as the first priority.
Okay. The company car, do you think that it will stay looking at benefit cars? Or do you think that it will gradually...
Well, no, I hope so.
But what is your feeling about it?
I can tell you, there are a lot of... when I look at my situation and I have, young managers, young people coming into the thing, and everybody says, young people, they don't want the car.
Exactly.
At SEAT, they want the car. That's one of the priorities. So I don't know. It's a kind of mismatch between what I read in the papers and what I experience every day. So it will depend on regulation. It will depend on taxation, etc. But, I think that a car is always, a very important, personal mobility tool. There will be probably, sharing service. In 2017, we will establish, a shared service in SEAT just to experiment, to see, because the technology gives you the chance. But I think it's still a big, let's say, a big benefit because, mobility is freedom, and freedom is one of the basic instinct of human race. So.
Yes. But is mobility also fun? And then is driving still fun? And will it also be fun?
You're asking that to a petrol head. So what can I tell you? I will only quote Ferdinand Porsche, who said that the last car that will be built will be a sports car. So I tend to believe in that statement. Yeah, okay. But yeah. For me, it's fun, but I think the experience will change. Interior of the cars will get, different, and will be able to give some kind of entertainment to the people, maybe in a different way. Yesterday, I was in a conference, and there was someone coming from Boston. It's a friend of mine, but he was saying, if you maybe I can put a PlayStation, and then you can drive, let's say, a Ferrari in the PlayStation while you're actually your car is driving you somewhere. I think is probably a bit silly.
Yes, exactly.
In a way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if I can drive a Ferrari, I drive it.
Good.
Personally.
Thank you very much, Mr. De Meo. Thank you for your time. Thank you.